global education companies. Our keynote speaker this afternoon is Mrs. Natasha Chopra, Managing Director of The Chopras. Mrs. Chopra was educated in the United Kingdom and has lived and worked most of her life overseas. As Managing Director of The Chopras, one of India's largest and most successful global education companies, Mrs. Chopra has dedicated the past 20 years to shaping the lives and careers of students seeking global education opportunities. The UK webinar today will cover a number of key areas: the UK as a student destination, new and emerging courses, tuition and living costs, funding opportunities, internships and work placements, options for extending your visa. The webinar will also consider why international students choose the UK as one of the preferred destinations of study. The structure of the webinar today will be in the format of a presentation. Questions will be taken throughout the webinar, so please do take the opportunity to post these via the chat facility as we go along. We will attempt to answer as many of the questions that come in as possible, but guarantee that any unanswered questions today will get a response by email in the coming few days. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I will now hand over to Mrs. Natasha Chopra to officially begin today's event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Natasha Chopra here. Well, having studied in 2 British universities and having thoroughly enjoyed the experience, I'm certainly hoping to enjoy giving you the webinar today. One of the things that really attract people towards UK is a lot to do with its history and the close ties with India. In fact, if we talk about history, I'm sure many of you will know that the first university that, although it's not always recognized in the world, was actually Taxila, which was in the Indian Northwest province, which is now in Pakistan, but obviously was India. But since that time, 1,000 years later, during the medieval times, the first universities that came up were actually British universities. And so really you had Britain, which was, you had Oxford coming up in 1088, then you had Cambridge coming later, but the other countries that have been very, very good in this area were all of in Europe as well, and the Roman Empire, which is where, and Greece, which is where you had the intellectuals. So you had countries like Spain and Italy also being at the forefront of universities that came up during the medieval times. And the UK itself, in fact, the older universities, if I can just read this to you, Cambridge, for example, started in 1209, St Andrews in Scotland, 1413, Glasgow in 1451, and Aberdeen in 1495, and followed by 1500s when a lot more universities came up. So what is it about the history of the country that would make it relevant today? Well, the universities have been there for a very, very long time, as you can appreciate, and therefore the tradition of university has continued through the ages, and what it does do is give us a very high assurance of quality. If something has been there for more than 1,000 years, or even less in many respects, I think what it does tell you that they have very, very strong traditions. And this is what is really respected about England, I should say the United Kingdom. And also, of course, we have a very, very strong history with India. In fact, a lot of our politicians and people who were instrumental in the formation of the country, whether it was Mahatma Gandhi or whether it was Jawaharlal Nehru, in fact, they all studied in the UK. By the way, talking about alumni and maybe talking about more recent people, did you know that what's his name, Varun Dhawan, for example, he also studied in UK. Another prominent person, although and they're not all Bollywood, is a lady called Vinita Suri, who in fact studied at the University of Essex. And she is now the Assistant Vice President at Citibank. Other people that you might find interesting is Dr. Mukund and G. Rajan, both from India. And they're also obviously very, very prominent and chairman of Tata Council. University, by the way, did you know the word university in fact stands for, or it means in Latin, a community of scholars and intellectuals. So that's how the word university came up. Value for money, well, with the UK having 3-year degrees at the undergraduate level and 1-year degrees at the postgraduate level, they are shorter than other countries. Now, if you wonder why that is, because the UK degree is very, very intense. The number of weeks is longer than it would be, say, perhaps in the US. And in the postgraduate degree is about 48 weeks. So it is very intense, and you only have about 4 weeks of break. Therefore, they can do it in 1 year. So it makes it very, very good value for money. And if you don't have a language, well, there's no barrier because all of us speak English and speak very good English, in fact. In fact, the other alumni, just to cover this, is Kushwant Singh, who studied at KCL, Salman Rushdie, he's also a King's College student and University of Cambridge. Amrita Sen, of course, as we all know, was also a Nobel winner and also studied at Cambridge. And Karan Bilmoria, who is the chairman of Cobra Beer, also studied there. And there are so many others that we haven't named, but I'm sure many of you would know so many as well. And K.R. Narayan and Rajiv Gandhi are just a few other names, to name but a few. So why study in the UK? Well, there was a survey done by the British Council on insights, and they found that there were 5 key reasons why Indian students, or international students really, chose UK as a study destination. And these 5 factors haven't changed over the years. And these really are the quality of education, and the international recognition of these qualifications. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, a British degree is really highly thought of and very well respected. The career prospects are, of course, very, very good because your recognition of qualification is very high. There are other programs that you can also do while you're doing your degree. And the reputation of the universities. Now, the UK now has about 117 universities, and while they may not all be top ranking, the universities are also recognized because of their ability to teach programs which perhaps the traditional universities may not have, but are very, very relevant to industry. So I think when you're looking for a course, you need to look at all these factors, and of course, the 5th factor is the safety of the country. The UK is regarded as a very safe haven, and very well respected, easy to get through wherever you want to go, and it's just a safe place. So we were talking about the new programs, excuse me. So there are a lot of new and emerging programs. What's really happened is that, in fact, gone are the days when we studied a program because we were interested. So, for example, students would go and study archaeology, or they'd study astronomy. But it wasn't because they were going to necessarily get a job in the area. They would study these programs and then go and perhaps get a job at Goldman Sachs or something. But over the last 20 years, and even more so now, things have really changed. And students want to study programs which will give them a good return on their investment and offer them good prospects in their careers. So we've always recommended that you do a broad-based general program at the undergraduate level. But at the PG level, this is now becoming more and more specialized. So it's not just about doing management, or it's not just doing about doing computer science, it's now specializing. So for example, students are now doing things like cloud computing, big data, and there are so many other programs. It doesn't matter which industry you're looking at, whether it's IT or environmental sciences or energy and infrastructure or architecture, there are very, very specialized programs. And I think our advice to all of you would be to have a look at the details, because these are the programs that are going to get you ahead in terms of your career prospects. And the universities too recognize that they are actually instrumental and the platform to be able to fill the talent gap within the economy of their country. Because they can't offer the bridge, then obviously there are huge talent gaps, as there have been over the past. And this is what international students are now trying to fill and be able to come in and be able to work in those countries as well. So here are some examples of the new and emerging popular programs. And these are the programs which will then also lead you to jobs as well. I suppose the overall arching thing I would like to say is that while all programs are in demand, the area that the employees are looking for is still in the STEM area. So that is your sciences, your technology, your engineering and mathematics. If you're good in those areas, then of course there is a higher prospect of being able to get a job overseas. And then of course specializing in, some of the areas we've talked about here, whether it's in the IT area, big data, data analytics, cloud computing, internet security or cyber security, and there may be a slight difference in the names. For example, in the US, the internet security is called ethical hacking. So don't get confused by the names. You should come and talk to our counselors and they'll be able to guide you through all this. Sustainability in every area, whether it's in construction, whether it's in management, whether it's in energy, whether it's in architecture, is a very, very important area, because we have, unlike previously, we used to believe that we had infinite resources. Actually, we don't. Our resources are very finite. And this is being recognized more and more, and therefore the focus on sustainability. Given the amount of travel, there's a lot of more logistics and transport areas that are in demand. So air transport management, for example, is a good area. If you're looking at management, have a look at corporate social responsibility, as governments and companies realize the need for them to be involved in CSR, not just to build their branding, but also to be able to actually contribute and give back. Many of you would have heard the information given in the World Economic Forum, which says that 1% of the world's population actually owns wealth, which is as much as 50% of the world's wealth. Now, there's a huge gap, clearly, and this is of huge concern to the economists and other people. And people are looking at corporate social responsibility as one way of giving back to society. And in the Indian government is also entered the space by insisting that companies do contribute to CSR. Architecture is a huge area, and then of course the environment, with areas like carbon management, offshore engineering, drug discovery, and even in law, entertainment law is a program that is offered by a few universities. But if you are a lawyer, a leading lawyer, this is something you may want to look at, given all the areas that are, whether something is made in one country, distributed in another, was produced in one country, distributed in another, and sung in another. These are all very, very complex issues. We have some questions which I would like to take before we move on. Prashant is asking, can the IELTS be waived to get admission to the university? Well, Prashant, IELTS can be waived sometimes, depending on your Year 12 results. But really speaking, our advice to you would be not to forego the IELTS, because rules can change at any time. What you don't want to do is to be in a peak period of applying for your visa, and UKVI changed their rules. And also it's good for you to know exactly where you stand with each of the modules of the IELTS, and therefore you can improve yourself should you need to. We have another question which is asking, do I need GMAT for a master's program in the UK? Well, as you know, the GMAT is primarily a US qualification, but it has been accepted worldwide by many countries who are asking for the GMAT. Generally it's for the MBA, but there are some programs where the Masters in Finance, for example, also require GMAT. Universities like Lancaster and LSE. So if you are able to do it, why not? Always challenge yourself and always, move forward and not be afraid of anything. I'm going to get one of my colleagues also to answer the next two questions. Sumitanshu is helping me on this, and I think it'll be good to hear his voice too. The question is, should I choose a university based on ranking alone, or are there other ways to choose? Time lag, yeah.
Okay, the thing is that if you're talking about if you want to choose a university, I would advise you first of all see the course contents, and depending on the course contents, if you're liking the course, yes, then you can definitely choose that university. But I would advise you, before you make the decision, you should apply options open, see the course contents, take a decision.
Thank you for that, Sumitanshu. Let's move on to the next slide. So, how deep are your pockets? Or actually, really speaking, they don't have to be that deep at all. Let's look at the tuition fees and living costs. We've got them written here, the tuition fees, and this is on an annual basis. You're looking at anything between £11,400 to £15,000 per year. For the engineering programs, it can be a little bit higher, and it depends on the university you wish to go to. For example, if you're going to Imperial, the costs will be a little bit higher. And the postgraduate programs, again, are quite reasonable, given that it's only a one-year program of £12,200 minimum, but a lot of them are about £14,000, £15,000. And for a doctoral degree, £13,000 per year, and this is actually just an average, and they can vary. So in terms of the living costs, you are going to be looking at about £10,000 for the year. If you're an undergraduate, you have to count about 9 months. So £800 times 9 is about £7,200. And if you're in London, £9,000. But if you're a postgraduate, then I suggest you look at the 12-month period. Along with the living costs and tuition costs, you are looking at about, say, 15 plus about £22,000 a year. But the good news is that there are scholarships available as well. And the UK does offer a range of scholarships. Now we've made a list of some of these. I'm not sure if you're able to see them. Oh yes, now here we are. So there are a lot of scholarships available as well. What we've called India bursaries are actually scholarships that are being offered by the universities themselves. And these are small generally, but can vary anything from, say, £1,000 to as much as, say, 50% at times. And there are various others that are listed here, the university scholarships. The Scotland Saltire scholarships are only available by the Scottish universities. As an overall thing, what I would like to tell you is that the British government, in fact, is investing a great deal of funding for scholarships. The great scholarships have just been announced a little while ago, and the overall amount is something like 15 crores. The Achieving Scholarships, while the deadline is gone for this year, I mean there's always a chance for next year as well, again has been increased from something like £600,000 to £1.5 million, so another 15 crores. You've also got the British Council IELTS scholarship, and that is £3,000, and there are about 8 of these that are feasible. By the way, there's also one for girls only, so the Aga Khan scholarship. If you need information on any of these scholarships, please walk into our offices and our counsellors will be able to guide you as to the ones that you can apply for and the ones that will that you can be eligible for. So you've got the Commonwealth Scholarship, INLACs, Rhodes, Kapila Hingarani, India Masters, and Principal India Masters as well. So going back, number 13 is about £3,000, the India Masters is about £5,000, and the Kapila Hingarani is about 6,000 scholarships, £6,000. And there are, the other ones will include tuition fees, maintenance, and airfare. So they are very, very generous. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that all of these are very, very competitive. You have to meet the requirements. Coming back to the achieving, by the way, you do have to be a graduate and have at least 2 years work experience as well. So if you apply early enough, there are many opportunities to fund yourself and make it easier on your parents' pockets as well. Well, let's talk about internships. Many students that we meet say to us, well, should I look at UK because they don't really offer any prospects of getting experience? Well, I'd like to put that myth in its correct form. And the truth is that there are many, many opportunities to get work experience. For undergraduates, the programs are generally 3 years, but a lot of universities offer a 4-year program. And what happens is that the first year and second year study in UK. The third year, they will actually put you into industry, where you can work for the complete year in an area of your choice. So whether you're doing business or whether you're doing engineering or other programs, you have the option to work for a full year. And if you're able to do that, I'm sure you will see the benefits of being able to go on to one of these kind of programs. How many of you watched the movie, by the way, called Pursuit of Happiness? Do you remember in that movie, the Dean Witter were offering the internships, and these guys really had to see how many calls they could make and how much business they could convert? That's an opportunity of an internship. It gives the employer the opportunity to assess you while you're working there. So the internships have many advantages, and it's not just for the undergraduates. The postgraduates as well. There are a number of universities that are in fact offering internships, or you can call them placements. Placements means that they are definitely going to pay you. And you can have this for up to 1 year. And there are quite a few universities who are offering these possibilities, that after you finish your program, you do the internship, and you're also assessed on it, by the way, on a number of programs. Again, the details of these can be taken from our counselors who will be able to tell you. Now, there are other types of internships as well. If you're doing a 1-year program, there may be an internship to do a project for about 3 or 4 weeks. If you're doing an undergraduate program, there could be an internship for maybe 4 months or 6 weeks. So these really vary. But I would really encourage every student excuse me, to look at the internships to enable you to build your skills, to build your knowledge, to be able to be working in reality in the kind of industry that you have gone to, and understand the ins and outs of it. and be able to understand whether this is what you really want to do. It helps you in identifying your career goals and be able to work in the environment, and it's a great experience for you to be able to say, I have experience, and therefore it's easier to get a job. When we look at employers, all employers are looking for the following. They want people with experience. Well, it becomes a catch-22 if you've just graduated and you have no experience. So this is the perfect route for you. They want people who've got the technical skills. Again, if you have, if you've done an internship, it gives you the opportunity to build your technical skills while on the job, and also for you to understand what competencies you need to develop. So again, this is the perfect time to do that. They also want students, or rather employees, who have the right kind of soft skills. Now, while you might think that learning English and if you can communicate is enough of a soft skill, it isn't. There are other soft skills. For example, being able to work in a team, how you interact with people around you. So all these things, the actual experience of working is very, very important. So we've listed some of the advantages here, which all of you can see. And of course, the very important one is that you have the opportunity to get a reference as well for your future applications. They may not be able to absorb you, but if you're good and you've worked really well there, they can certainly give you a reference for your future jobs. I think we've talked about some of these things, but let's just cover this. So the internships can be for a range of whether it's a few weeks or a little bit longer. I have a few questions which I'd just like to take here, and the question is that is a sandwich course better than a 3-year UG course? Abhishek, we've just covered this, but yes, indeed. Because the industrial experience will enable you to gain relevant industrial experience and for your studies, and it will give you the time to spend your 3rd year working for a company, and gives you a break as well from your studies. And besides the money that you earn, because these will be paid internships, you also gain the practical experience that can be invaluable both in your final year project and when you're applying for jobs after graduating. We have another question here from Mukesh, and Mukesh is saying, what is the easiest way to get an internship? Well, Mukesh, the first thing is nothing is easy in life, so understand that, and if you understand that, then you're willing to go the tough route. Well, first of all, you do need to be a good student and with good interviewing skills, and these are all areas that the Careers Office can help you with. Well, they can't help you with being a good student. You have to have good attendance and really be focusing on your studies. If you're somebody with very marginal marks, I don't think many employers would be interested in employing you. So that's a very, very basic thing. And every university, as I said, has a career support center that will help you with the application as well. The Students' Union will also be helpful in most cases. And if the work placement is a part of the course tutor will also guide you and help you to apply. The other thing I do want to mention to our students, because many of you are obviously international students, the time for internships is something that you need to be looking out for, because they have very, very tight deadlines and timelines. I would suggest that you, again, this is something that we will be guiding you on, our counselors can guide you on, that you do a lot of research before you go, and ideally at the end of your 1st year, which will be, say, June the next year, if you're going in September this year, you should be applying for internships over the next 2-3 years and do as many as you can in different kinds of companies. So if you want to apply for, say, next June, by the time you go to the UK, you should know what kind of companies you would like to apply to. You need to look at the deadlines. You need to look at the kind of application forms that they have and start looking at those maybe, by June, July this year, so that you're fully prepared, and work on your resume, work on your interviewing skills. So we've talked about students getting an opportunity to gain direct experience working in an area of their choice, and of course it gives the employer the chance to assess the student's caliber and can result in a job offer. And also when you're assessed, whenever it's assessed, in some cases it is and some cases it isn't, this is in fact a great way to boost up your marks as well, provided you do a good job. Okay, let's take a couple more questions. Okay, I have one here which says that do all design courses require a portfolio? Akansha, yes, all design courses do require a portfolio, and in fact you will need about 20 pieces of different kinds of work which show your artistic and creative ability as well as sketching skills. And you can do this through a web link, a CD, or even scanned copies, although I think a CD is a better way of doing it, or even a web link. And the thing to remember is that it's not about just picking up any creative work and putting it there. You have to be able to explain the story behind it and how you came up with the idea. Because remember, when you're doing something creative, they want to understand how did you conceptualize the idea, what was the progression route that led you to the piece that you have produced. So I think a write-up on each one of these is very, very important. Another question is that are entrance exams required for UK universities? Well, interestingly, not really. In India, we're used to a lot of different kinds of entrance exams. The UK generally doesn't require them. What they do require is very, very good marks. And if you don't have good marks, there are other opportunities as well for you, and where you can do a pathway program, which can either be a foundation or a diploma. And these, in fact, you can do the diploma overseas, or now you could even do it with us in India, because we're also offering a one-year program, which is like the first year of university. So again, for details of all these, do talk to our team. Just coming back to the question about the entrance exams, there are, in some cases, if, for example, you're going to be doing law, there may be, some universities will require you to do the LNAT. SAT isn't really required for British universities. And in some cases, if you're looking for medicine, for example, UKCAT is also required. And IELTS is required, well, IELTS or TOEFL, PT, any of those for the English competency. So have a look at these in detail. What you don't want is to be caught out towards the end for these. Now the big question about visa. Students are of course very concerned that can I stay back? Well, as we've just gone through this, yes, of course, I think if you're looking at universities which offer you the sandwich program, where you can spend 1 year in the UK doing work experience, that's one way of counting it. For those who do a 3-year program, or well, any program, and finish the undergraduate degree, you really have another 4 months. But think of it another way. Really speaking, you've got 3 years and 4 months in the country to be able to work out for yourself the kind of jobs that you want to get. And I think that gives you plenty of time and scope to be able to do research and start working on this. And remember that in the UK you have to apply at least 12 to 16 months earlier to be able to apply for jobs. Now, you will be on a Tier 4 visa, and there are 3 possible options. One of them is the Tier 2, which is a general route. Currently, there are something like 29,000 employers who are listed on the UK Tier 2 website. These are all employers who are recognized by UKVI, I'm sorry, not TI, who are recognized and are recognized as sponsors. And if you look at the website, you will find the kind of jobs that are available. So this is one possibility. And of course, you should apply for them right at the very beginning of your third year. The other route is the doctorate extension scheme. If you are a PhD, you will have at least another 12 months to be able to find a job. So again, really speaking, you have 3 years plus the 4th year of you being able to stay back to look for a job. And I think if you're having a tough time even after 4 years, then really it makes it quite difficult, and you maybe perhaps should be looking at other places as well. Then there is something that the UK government has brought up, which is called the graduate entrepreneur route. Now, in this route, what they're trying to do is to encourage the entrepreneurs and people and students who have a good idea to run a project or be able to set up a business or a company which can do well. The huge advantage for you is that there are a number of universities that are in fact part of the graduate entrepreneur scheme. Not every university. So for details, again, I suggest that you come and talk to us. And the advantage for students is that you don't really need to show the funding, which those who are not entrepreneurs, in fact, have to show as much as £200,000. And if you are successful in your initial proposal, it may not be more than £50,000. So I suggest that you have a look at this route. If you have a good idea and are a budding entrepreneur, well, here is the, here's a perfect route for you. Just coming back to the visa, the UK visa is relatively easy, and I have a question here on the visa. It's asking whether an interview is mandatory for a UK visa. Yes, it is. It's done at the VFS. Once you've done your biometrics, an appointment is made for you, as you know, and you will have a Skype interview. So it is something you should be prepared for. And the next question on the visa is, how long does it take to get a student visa? Well, really speaking, as long as your paperwork is perfect, and this is why we are there, because we can help you make this absolutely perfect. It can take about 15 working days. So in other words, 15 working days is about 3 weeks. To be on the safer side, you should give it at least 4 to 5 weeks. So if there are any delays, you are in full control. And students in Bangalore, in fact, can file a priority visa, which normally takes only 5 working days. It does cost another 10,000 rupees, but hey, if you can get it earlier and you know where you stand, that's not a bad idea at all. Are there any more questions? I think there may be a few more. I've got a few more questions on the eligibility. It's asking about deadlines. Are there any deadlines for applications to British universities? Well, generally there aren't deadlines because a lot of them also depend. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. There are deadlines, but a lot of universities don't have deadlines. I think you have to be very specific about it. If you are an undergraduate, then the deadlines are the 15th of October if you're looking at applying to universities like Oxford and Cambridge of the previous year. And then some universities like, excuse me, like LSE will be 15th of Jan or UCL for that matter. I really do seem to have a sore throat today. At the PG level, the admissions are rolling, but if there is a huge demand, which there can be at times, internationally, then of course the courses can close earlier, and that's why it's in your interest to in fact be able to apply as soon as possible and not leave it to the last minute. If you want a university which is in high demand internationally, that is something you have to contend with. So our advice always is to come in early, say around October, so that your applications are completed in about 3 or 4 weeks, which includes writing SOPs and getting your references and so on. So the sooner you do it, the better it is for you. And for those of you who are looking for applying for scholarships, and of course you need to be thinking of it even earlier than that. There's a generic question here about scholarships. How the scholarships are awarded. Well, scholarships, as we've covered before, are generally merit-based, and the first criteria is always academic marks. But you also have to have a very interesting profile, depending on the scholarship that you want to go for. But most scholarships require you to write an essay on a given topic, and in some cases there will be interviews as well. And your CV should actually stand out and be absolutely brilliant. So if you've got good marks, a great CV, you can write well, all you need to do is manage your time, and you will be able to apply for a scholarship as well. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope that you found this useful. It will be nice to hear from you if you did. And if you felt that we didn't answer some of your questions, please do write in and let us know. So until the next time, thank you very much, and I shall pass this on to Sweetie.
Thank you for joining us today, joining today's webinar. We hope that you found it useful. Thanks particularly to those who contributed with their questions. This helps make the webinar more interactive and is also a very important part of the learning process. We are conscious, as mentioned by Mrs Natasha Chopra, that some of you may have not received answers to your questions this afternoon. Please rest assured that you will get a response by email. Today's event is part of the Chopras 2015 series of webinars. Several more webinars will take place over the coming months on a variety of interesting topics by experts in the respective fields, and we would encourage all of you once again to join in and listen. We would also like to take this opportunity to inform you about yet another event being hosted by the Chopras, known as the Global Education Interact. It is an opportunity for you to meet university delegates from over 75 universities under one roof, visiting 9 cities between the 3rd of February to the 20th of February 2015. The cities are Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, Chandigarh and Jaipur. Please visit our website www.thechopras.com to know more about the GI schedule, venue and timings. We look forward to meeting you there. Also, you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest or Twitter. Thanks to all of you once again. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.